Welcome to Aidentiti Toks. Aidentiti Toks will offer an accessible, comedic, satiric way to redefine, expose, and question. My name is Romi. I'm studying MMA in dramaturgy and playwriting, and this episode you will get to know more about Tura Arutura Cuthbert. We'll speak about language, people of accents, Irish language and inclusion, the hierarchy of language. Today, connecting with others in a deep, meaningful way outside of immediate circles is harder than it used to be, making it important to talk openly about our identities and ways of perceiving and engaging with society. Special thanks for the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Project Fund and Ewa Galway for sponsoring Aidentiti Toks. Hello, thank you again for coming and joining us at Aidentiti Toks. Today we're very excited to have with us Cuthbert, Tura, which I'm going to introduce now with a little bio. He's a Zimbabwean national who has lived in Ireland for nearly 30 years as accomplished communicator, artist, and political commentator. He's been an active proponent of cultural and cross-cultural activities in Ireland, the UK, and Europe. Possibly uniquely, he is a Gaelic speaker and dancer and has a deep interest in all aspects of Gaelic culture, such as ancient poetry and dance. Please, Tura, join us. There you are. Thank you.
Carmela.
Carmela, for joining us. Thanks a million.
Thank you.
So,
I'm happy to be here.
yay, me too. I'm very happy to have a conversation with you today. It's about language, and I'm really interested in this language of, like many different languages that we may know, but also language of the body. And also, how does it feel to be an Irish speaker when you are not born in Ireland and, you didn't start Irish from the beginning, and when you have a difference in physical terms, etc. I'm over speaking as usual. You take it away, but we're going to have a conversation.
Yes.
And I have 3 little points.
Yes.
Is there something you want to start with, or I'm going to just throw at you the word people of accent?
Let's throw the word and we can just flow with it.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
People of accent. Have you heard of this term, people of accent, and what it means?
Yes, I've heard of it in my journeys trying to understand, linguistic prejudice and how it operates. So I have come across it, and I have experienced it in terms of linguistic prejudice that accents conjure from people.
For me, there is a thing in which my appearance does not have anything too peculiar until I open my mouth, so then in the moment I open my mouth, there is this foreignness. And I guess when it's double, when even in the appearance, it's already a foreigner, and then opening the mouth, would that add a difficulty layer or I don't know, or something?
Yeah, but you see, I was reading this book by a guy called Ibrahim X. Kendi, How to Be an Anti-Racist.
Mm-hmm.
And Ibrahim, he goes into detail at the different forms of prejudice that people have, gender prejudice, racial prejudice, linguistic prejudice, physical prejudice, literally people having prejudice because of your physical appearance. And what I liked about what he did was he stated, but opened up a conversation about the different forms of prejudice: linguistic prejudice, language prejudice, where people are just prejudiced because of the way they sound, the way their voices sound. When people go, oh, gibberish, or, oh, you're speaking double Dutch, why double Dutch? I found out why people say double Dutch. In Gaelic, you say dúirt, which is to say. So when they say double Dutch, they actually mean double speak, double say. And it's actually nothing to do with the Dutch. It's nothing to do with the Dutch. It's not spelled D-U-T-C-H. It's like spelled D-U-I-T. Dutch. Double Dutch.
That's the thing, you know. A lot of things from Irish came because the people wouldn't even be writing Irish. Maybe they would have been speaking it, but not even writing it, and then kind of like mix together what they hear in English and what they know in Irish. And that's why English spoken in Ireland is so different from English spoken in other parts, no?
Yes. But also, one thing that I like about Ireland is, you know, Ireland actually has the oldest written language in Europe.
Wow.
It is the oldest alphabet. Oglam is the oldest alphabet in Europe, and they used to write on rocks.
Yeah.
And Oglam is called. So in a sense, you know, the Irish, they have got this really ancient wisdom which comes with the way they write, the way they speak. And so when we speak English, we actually collapse, you know, like what about you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what about you? What do they say in the west of Ireland? Cake will do, cake will do, cake will do. And in the northwest of Ireland, we say "Kujema tatu," you know, like what about you? That's literally Gaelic translated into English. What about you is like "Kujema tatu."
The musicality of it stays, right?
Yeah. But you know, like the Irish are so musical, and it's like if you go to Cork, and the way they speak in Cork, or you go to County Clare, the way people speak, and the way people dance. I always associate the way people dance, you know, with the way they speak and their nature and their style. And if you go to Connemara, there's a Connemara way of walking, dancing. Even the Shannos in Connemara has got just a rock hard, firm, you know.
Wow, totally different style. And this dance style is connected with the way you hear in the musicality of the speech. This is brilliant.
That's how I feel things.
This is I totally hear you. Yeah, I can see it. Yes. On inclusion in the Irish language. As an Irish speaker, tell me, what did you encounter, or how? I don't know. I know couple of vocals, you
A
know.
couple of fuckers.
Couple of vocal.
Fuck all. A couple of
Bakuramak.
fuckers.
Bakuramak. I have a right to an accent. Okay.
Yes.
Bakuramak.
The Karamak.
And very little. But I guess, you know, if I say these couple of things, people will be like, oh wow, you know, in insofar as they all also maybe understand only these couple of things as well. But I don't often get to be in places where people speak much more, and knowing something, you know, like, do you find yourself knowing more Irish in a context of some Irish people, and would that create any sort of weird situation ever? I like weird situations.
Yeah, and that's generally what I'm used to. Basically, you know, when you speak a language, an ancient language, you connect, you hear sounds and certain ways of being are influenced into you by the language, the way you speak. So I speak, I mix, because I speak Ulster Irish and I also speak Munster Irish, you know, and so I would mix a lot, deliberately designed to just displace people.
Yes.
I don't want to be put in a little hole, in a little category. So I do, well, I don't do it intentionally, but I find that people who are Irish and don't speak Irish some of them have a bit of difficulty accepting me. So I've experienced like people telling me, you may be able to speak Irish, but you are not Irish. So I experienced
Friendly reminder. Was it a friendly reminder? Just in case you forget.
Yes, yes. Just in case you forget, always remember, you may speak Irish, but you... And I say, you wish.
I would say the Curramac, because it's the only thing I can say, but...
or Pogmahone.
Oh, I know that one.
But you know, you know, the thing about speaking Irish is there's all different sort of experiences and responses I get. Some people love it, some people hate it, some people, they put their dislike or their experience of Irish learning at school, they put it on me.
Wow.
And some people put their political opinions about Irishness and Irish on me. And I usually just confuse them because I am an Irish speaker who was raised as, who went to a Protestant school, but was Catholic. But when he went back home, he was a shaman and was surrounded by rituals of the most ancient African tradition. And I don't like to stay in a little pigeonhole.
Absolutely. I feel you so much. It's like you always have to choose and to be one thing. To have
You
one
know,
thing, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I find that because people who speak Irish or don't speak Irish, because of the social conditioning of Ireland's imperial history, people, they find the fact that I speak Irish a shock, a challenge, and sometimes a cause for resentment. I mean, there's just people who just, oh, they like me, and then they find out he speaks Irish, and they go, is he one of them?
Okay, because we can talk about that too. I recently find out, you know, like if you do speak Irish in a way,
yes,
in some parts of Ireland, for sure, maybe not everywhere, but there is a connotation as well that you had the money to study it, to go to a proper school, or to, you know, and maybe other people that are Irish, then it's like they got a lesser quality education when it comes to language, and so they have that frustration of not having the ability.
true.
And it's kind of connected to a monetary issue in some shape or form there, is it?
It is, because I believe that you're right in the sense that people, they, oh, how did you learn Irish? I mean, I went to school all my life and learning Irish, and I didn't. So what did you do that we didn't do? And how come you can speak it when we went to school? And I think the currency is about the humanity that comes with learning a language, and the consistency that comes with learning a language, the commitment that comes with learning a language, and who you have to be when you're learning a language, and the places that you emotionally, mentally, spiritually have to go to learn the language. And the trauma of the Irish people in terms of the language being taken away from them can be seen in the way that they view their language. So for me, learning the language was all about accepting that I'm going to be a different person and I'm not going to know myself, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with a total transformation change. I'm okay with not knowing myself or creating a new self. So Irish people, they view my journey with different opinions and different eyes and different, because some of the people that I've met, for example, they love the fact that I speak their language and I'm making the effort to connect with their language and them. And some people give me like a big up and props and respect, especially when they find out that I love ancient poetry. And I like to recite poetry. And so because I have made that effort. Some people, they give me some kind of acknowledgement that I have made an effort, and to make that effort, I've had to make a conscious decision, and they love that conscious decision that I made and the conscious effort. So the respect for them and for respect for me is coming from an acknowledgement that, hey, we know what it took for you to learn our language. We know where you had to go to learn the language, and we respect that. And then there's people who say, you think you're now better than us?
That's it. Yeah.
You think you're now more Irish than us?
Yeah.
Always a nigger. Once a nigger, always a nigger.
Oh,
I get that.
you
I
get
get that.
yeah.
And people will say, oh, you think you're intelligent now? You think you're smart now that you could, just because you can speak Irish? And, you know, yeah.
I hear it. It's like it's you're keeping it alive, you know, like you want other people to learn a language.
I do.
That way, the language, you know, in France, you call it langue vivante, a
Langue vivante.
language that is alive.
Yes.
Can be, for example, Irish, French, Spanish, compared to Latin or ancient Greek. They're not langue vivante. They're not living. They're not languages alive. And I feel like Irish is I don't know, euthanasia. I don't know, is in this land in between. Is it vivant or not? Because when someone,
Well,
yeah, tell me.
yeah, I think Irish Gaelic is experiencing a revival as a youth, as a teenager in her 20s, and finding her confidence and accepting her reality and her ability to name the world, name the experiences, because culturally, we all know that Ireland is a giant culturally. The footprint of Irish culture, whether it's St. Patrick's Day, whether it's, you know, the whole world celebrating St. Patrick's, or the whole world connecting or contact. You know, Che Guevara was Irish.
Taxi drivers tell me for 14 years every time, where are you from? You know, Che Guevara was Irish. Do you know Admiral Brown? You know, it's like, what is this?
It's to remind you that
I know things about you and about your country, about your culture, and about your people. That's what it feels like. What is
that's
that?
exactly what it is.
You know, you think you know me? Well, I know you. I know you.
I know where you've been.
You want to know something that I realized? I need to write a play or a book or something about it. Going back to my childhood, I feel like I only had 3 books in my house. When I was around 5 or 6, I was reading. I was learning how to read and write, and the 3 books were the Bible in Spanish, the Bible in Italian, and Ernesto Guevara's life memoir.
Wow.
That was the 3 books. I feel,
Wow.
you know, you look back at it and like, oh, that's a nice base for like explaining.
Well, that explains you really. You know, what I love about Ernesto is he was an academic and a scholar, a very educated, critical thinker, and a practical person. And when I look at Shay, and then I look at even the people that led the Irish Revolution of 1916, you know, you realize that these were people who were very well awake to what was happening. They were having this pedagogical dialogue with what was happening. They were naming their world. They were giving names to their experiences, but from a very informed position. And I guess 2 Bibles and Che Guevara, you couldn't go wrong with that.
That's where all my mental issues come from, probably.
Well, my friend told me about the Bible, right? And I'm talking 20, 25 years ago. He told me, I always had a difficulty with Jesus, you know, because I get blonde hair, blue eyes. I just couldn't. I thought I could never be like that person, you know. I could never live up to that. But then I met this friend of mine called Stan, and Stan says, Tura, Jesus was a revolutionary.
You?
This guy had he was dreadlocks. He was a fighter. This guy could handle himself, and he was influential. So influential that his friend he had a tax collector for a friend, he had a mercenary, he had fishermen for a friend, and he had a prostitute for a friend. And these were the people that he was hanging around with. And this guy had power. This guy had influence. This guy knew how to speak, but he also had magic tricks that he could use. But also he was influential and he had money. Because nobody follows. You know what I mean? Like, you know?
He went viral back then.
Yeah, he went viral, believe me.
Yes.
So when Stan told me about that Jesus, I said, yeah, I can relate to that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I can relate to him. In fact, I can be him. I can live up to that kind of a revolutionary, somebody who, you know, who doesn't live by the rules of society. Do you know what I actually think about Jesus?
What?
I think Gia is the word God in Gaelic, and then Gia, and then Deus, but also Zeus is a Greek god.
Yeah.
And so the Irish came, and the Greeks came, and they were now after the Dark Ages, and they were putting together the text of the Bible, and they do this thing called double veneration. You know, double veneration? No. Like you say, Lord God Almighty is like, you know what I mean? Like, so Gia, Zeus, Jesus.
Oh yeah, I guess.
Jesus.
Yes.
But you know, like when I think about the Irish language and how it has gone into our lives, because I'm from Zimbabwe, and the Irish are the people who translated our Bible.
Oh.
So the Bible from my country was translated by the Irish.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of Irish in the language of Zimbabwe.
Wow.
So a lot of missionaries from Ireland translated a lot of Bibles. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the Bibles. So not only were the Irish oppressed by the English, but the church decided to tag along the English imperialism and spread the good word.
Yeah.
So in short, in Zimbabwe, our language is called Shona, which is an Irish girl's name.
Aye.
So Zimbabweans speak Shona, and Shona is an Irish girl's name. And the word for example, the word for cut in Shona is gera.
Gera, wow.
Which is the same word in Gaelic. Gera, spelled Gearr. Gera.
Guerra. Sounds like war in Spanish. Guerra. Guerra is war in Spanish.
Wow, cutting people.
Like our little plants. We need light in this garden.
Guerra.
Guerra.
Yes, who's that Spanish painting about war?
Guernica.
Yeah, Guernica.
Yeah, there is Ger there as well. Good.
Yeah, Guernica.
Language connections.
Cutting
So
of people.
What about the hierarchy of language? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, but you know, I like sound, and I before I start to talk about language, I start with sound. And sound is the source of my conversations before I start to make meaning of the sounds.
Yeah.
So there is some sounds that are, in my impression, because sound has got a psychosomatic impact on our body, and certain sounds make us feel a certain way. So I, for example, feel that when I speak Gaelic, I speak my mother tongue, I feel like the cells affect how I am, and how the language affects myself and how I am. On a, like Sanskrit, Om Buru Bharava Tat Savitu Varenyam Barajo Devasya Dihimahi Dio Yo Nam Barajo Deyat. That's a Tamil, Indian Tamil saying, which is a mantra. And the belief is that the mantras affect our subatomic state. So when you repeat a mantra, the sounds affect your pre-molecular, like before it even comes into your mind, it affects it by the sound.
Yeah.
So the language of Irish and the ancient languages, I believe they affect our molecular state.
Absolutely. Like we're made 70% of water as humans, and musicality, music and vibration has a vibration, and that vibration makes water move in different ways. So if
Yes.
the way I speak is my body's gonna move like this, and I'm gonna feel that. If I,
Yeah.
like the vibration of the way I speak, or the voices I hear, like this is not just science fiction. I feel like this is very biologically.
It is.
Then I'm not a biologist, and I am a creative, and for me all these things can make sense. Maybe others will be like, I'm not sure. But it feels like very obvious.
Yeah.
And like you can feel it. You can feel like someone, like I could speak to you in Spanish. You don't know what I'm talking about, but you can feel. Si te digo, ¿por qué me estás hablando así? ¿Qué me estás diciendo? No te entiendo.
Yeah.
What did I say? It's like, ay, ¿por qué me
I
estás
don't understand.
No te entiendo. Exactly.
Understand?
But it could be like, I don't understand, or like, oh, I don't understand. You're saying the exact same words, but the tone and musicality and rhythm, the attitude around the phrase, that's also.
Yes. Yes. The way that analogy you've just given is really useful, because I know people who think when you see two Africans talking, or people Spanish talking, they think, are those guys fighting? I've had people, like when I attend meetings, because I'm a passionate person.
And we're back after this little reconfiguration of the space.
Yes.
We were talking about the musicality and the fact that you can have, like, you can say the same identical thing, but the way you say it and the tone and accent and thing you use will give you totally different
feeling. Yes. And I believe that in order for me to remain, to be authentic and to be honest, I have to speak from there, from my gut, from my belly, from my feeling. And you ever hear how people speak when they speak like that, and the voices are like really high, and even men who speak like that, I think at different stages or different states, I do that. Sometimes I speak really high, and sometimes I speak really low, but it's just society and conditioning that sometimes affects other people's ability to do that. I mean, we are artists. So sometimes the world is my theater. Sometimes the world is my playground. And so I'm able to negotiate. But imagine people who don't have art or creativity to explore the world, or to explore their feelings, or to express their feelings.
You remind me of, I think it's Sir Ken Robinson that said how we are training our kids and the youth the more and more and more towards the head, so that when they're small they move a bit more, and then like more on the chair, and then and even the voice, then it goes to the head and it's everything in the head, but then you don't feel, you don't, you
Mhm.
know, like you can use, it's almost as if I have a guitar and then I'm always going like pling 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 very
Yeah,
close to the top, but I'm not playing the whole of the
yeah.
guitar. And there's nothing wrong in speaking up there
No,
times or anything,
no.
but it's like you have all of this resonance, and you can
Yes,
make words come from your feet or from your everywhere, but
yes.
like
For example, France had this revolution, cultural revolution,
hmm
and Britain didn't have a cultural revolution.
hmm.
So the openness of French people, the secular nature of French people, and how they talk about things, and how there's a separation of state and church, is a clear. Whereas in Britain, it's like ambiguous.
You just remind me with friends. There is this man called Tar Ben-Jaloun that wrote this very tiny booklet that is something like this size of a
Okay.
book, and it's called "The Racism Explained to My Daughter."
Mm-hmm.
And Tar Ben-Jaloun was migrant to France, and he wrote this book. And then this little book, I used to read it as a 13-year-old in Italy. In a way, my education was in Italy, and we would read French, contemporary and past. We would read Spanish, you would read Don Quixote. It's not like you read the whole of whatever, but you have a notion, of what's going on, and you obviously will be familiar with Shakespeare and other things. While in when we talk about cultural imperialism, it feels like in Ireland it's way more okay. There is Irish writers, which you can be the best and greatest and all, it's great, but most of them, a lot of them went to France, went to Italy, went to, they had this traveling and, opening up their mind, understanding new ways of seeing and thinking in order even to express themselves better in their own culture.
Yeah.
I feel like this is something that we fail to recognize often.
Yes, but again, because of the cultural hierarchy
Yeah.
and the hegemony of English culture. A few years ago, when I started studying law, uh, I, I did some research and I found out that the American culture department and the English culture department actually have an agreement where they each promote each other's culture first and foremost. So there's a agreement between the British and Americans that they put each other's culture before anybody else's culture, and that is what they do. So to hell with Romi, who speaks Spanish or Italian, to hell with Tura with his Gaelic, to hell with all of those who don't speak English.
Barbarians,
Yeah, they're
like
brutish. They're brutish, not British, brutes.
so there is British and brutish, that's it.
Yes, that's brutish.
So true, but there is so much wealth. It's like as humans we have all these abilities and capacities and sounds and things, and then we decide, okay, we're only gonna focus on this. It's like I am a human, I have a head, a hand, two arms, two legs, and we're like, we're only gonna focus on this.
Uh,
That's all.
but the funny thing about the cultural hierarchy and linguistic hierarchy is that now I'm under no illusion, Romy, that a monoglot
Mm-hmm.
is really getting shortchanged.
Mm.
It's not having a total experience. My experience of Ireland, by virtue of speaking Irish, is different from somebody who doesn't speak Irish.
Absolutely.
And it's about the experience that life affords you. because of the Spanish that I speak, because of the Italian, buongiorno.
And even like there were so many languages. Italy, if you look at it, is a tiny peninsula, yeah, but there were
Yes.
so many languages within it. Then
Yeah.
when people moved, because obviously within Italy, which historically Italy has only existed really from the Second World War,
Hmm.
or people would move and go to other parts and they would not understand. Like
Yeah.
Milanese, I was brought up in Milan,
Hmm.
so I know a little bit of Milanese, and it would be like, "Kilegiski,
Hmm.
kigisht." I said the same thing in
Yeah.
in South. Who's this person? Or in the North, who is this person? It's totally different. So then, moving,
Hmm.
embodying
Hmm.
became a way of communication in which, okay, I know you're not from here, but I'm gonna try to understand you. And so we made
Yes.
so many more movements.
But also, what I find is that because of that mixing and coming of people and culture, and the Italian essence is embodied in the art.
Hmm.
And when you see how uh, art is revered, and the place that art and culture has within Italian culture and politics and economy, it, it really tells you that these people were communicating not just verbally, but they were communicating in all different forms and ways.
Hmm.
You know, there's an old Mexican saying, when you see us dance, you see our spirit.
Yes.
I thought it was the perfect moment to enter. When you see us dance, you see our spirits.
And
Oh, Urbina.
Sorry, keep going. Sorry.
So it's a Mexican saying, but when you think about the personality of the Irish, and if you see Shanos dance, which is the oldest form of dance in Ireland,
Shannon.
Shanos,
Yes.
Shanos, Sean space N-O father, which is a little line at the top, and S. But so when you see Shanos, I believe you see the personality of the Irish, and this personality is witty, it is funny, it is free, it is neither masculine or feminine, it is wild, it is fire, it is all things but nothing. So
And the difference between Shanos and then other types of Irish dancing,
you
even
can see it. You can see how Shanos has influenced all these different styles. Like, but when you see those dances that came from Shanos, you can see why they are danced like that, because of the personality of the experience. So, for example, if you go to a Cayley, it's all figures and it's all dancing with other people, and there's a lot of holding, a lot of touching, and you can see how the church didn't like that. And so some of the dances are done in a particular way, and they've developed a particular way, and you can see the spirit, you can see the mentality in the way that people dance.
yes. And this makes me go South America, and like tango in Argentina for sure, which is actually not danced almost at all by the youth. But I'm even thinking of this connection with African roots that is in like perreo. Let's talk about the perreo, and is a type of twerking, let's say, very Latin American, connected to song like music like reggaeton and things like this. And obviously, I know that it's a different world, you know, like Chanel's is not dancing discos in Ireland, you know, is not danced by the youth in that way. While maybe other types of dance like ballroom or tango or even salsa could be. But I'm thinking like the embodiment. What am I saying, guys?
Yeah, because you see, when I see tango, I see an African dance.
Tango has very strong influences from Africa.
In fact, I know of a dance that we do in Angola that is very much that type of conversation. You know, if you look at Kizomba, and if you look at, you know, I'm going away with this very far, even if you look at Arabia, and then you look at the dances that were associated with the slaves, you know, the dancing with the hips and sensual dancing. And then if you go to Congo and you see this hip gyrating movement that is so exquisitely precise and sensual, and then you say, well, what is the relationship between these girls dancing like this in Arabia and these sub-Saharan people dancing like this? It's as if the signatures of the African slaves that were taken by the Arabs have lived on through the imprints, the influences of the slaves on the culture in those places. So in a way, whilst our spirit may be dampened, but our spirit lives through the dance. So, you know, like a reggaeton is still the spirit of the slaves.
This idea of that the spirit, our spirit lives through the dance that transcends space and time and generations and almost also extinctions of civilizations. I think it's very powerful and also something that is so valuable to talk about, because as we have an evolution, at least in contemporary dance, where like it's almost like always trying to become more, it's always trying to innovate, but at the same time become aware. So it's like this is something that is crucial to become aware of, because it's like, yeah, yesterday I was reading this. He's an American philosopher, so I'm sorry.
No worries. We forgive you.
If we are going to truly evolve, we do by including and integrating what came before into something greater, not by wiping it out. It's by Ken Wilber.
I have, because of the cultural experiences and also because of the experiences of knowing history, because history is it's actually one of my favorite topics of study. I'm under no illusion that in terms of the overall conversations of human life, emancipation and expression and experience, those people who lost it, and when I say people who lost it, I'm really clear about who lost it, because the people that were engaged in dehumanizing other people, they lose something. And that's why when you look at England and you think, okay, English dance, what is English? English culture, what is English culture? It loses it. So when you see our dance, you see our spirit. And when I say dance, when I say English dance, what do you see? I go to parties and I look at people dancing and I try to see what is the source of their feelings, or how are they expressing their feelings in the way they're dancing. And I would go to as far as saying that if you don't have a national dance and a national way of expressing yourself, then what do you have? Because dance is the first religion. Before any religion was there, dance was there. Dance is religious because it is the one inanimate thing that makes us come alive in all form, sound, movement, or, everything comes together. The whole brain works when we dance. So if you're not dancing and you're not evoking and awakening all those things, what are you experiencing? So maybe in that sense, I believe that those of us who have that core essence are the ones who are re-educating those who don't have it. And that's why I actually refuse to be told about things that I know the English people don't have. And this is humanity. And I'm talking about cultural, spiritual maturity.
Wow, cultural, spiritual maturity. And yes, and language is part of that as well.
It is integral.
Just yesterday, I was having a discussion about a memory on dancing, jazz music in a pub, like as well. In Ireland, there could be pubs where there is a tiny dance floor, but nobody dances. And I don't mind because I like, embody. I never minded in the past. When we used to have this once upon a time, you like history. You remember the history when we could dance?
I remember.
And I remember, like, you're a woman, you're dancing on your own, and you're being embodied, you're doing your thing. And then people will feel like often the inspiration to come up to me after, as in like, thank you, as in like there was somehow for them, or as in like this was a performance or something. And it's like, no, I was just dancing. And I remember, and I was saying someone telling me, great footwork. And I remember just looking at them like, what? As in, like, I'm not a dancer, I'm a mover. I like moving and I like dancing. But when this person was like, great footwork, it felt to me like, are you trying to stamp of approval? Like, I'm allowed to be here, I'm allowed to move, I'm allowed to, I don't need you to tell me how great my footwork. And I was talking about this and someone saying, no, but that's a nice thing. Like, this person wanted to be nice to you. And I don't know if you understand.
Well, I'm going to tell you a little secret, Romi. Yeah. As dancers, we are looking at everything about what we are looking at and experiencing it as well. And that's how we're able to make meaning. That's how we are able to read body language, because we experience those feelings. So, for example, all the emotions that you felt during our conversations, I feel them as well. And vice versa. Sometimes we miss the mark, but I think we, as meaning creators, we have that ability, or we have those skills where we're constantly, for example, I absolutely love, because I have to, in order to be able to be honest and truthful, it has to come from a place of love. So during the whole time that I am engaged in this experience, I'm coming from a place of love.
Yes.
So it's I guess for looking at dance and looking at English dance, I say that loss of love for humanity took away the ability to translate humanity through dance for the English. Even, okay, fair enough. The Germans have got a lovely dance. What is their dance called?
Chiki chaka, chiki chaka. Schwim.
Hey, there's Germans in the room. I am in Germany now.
Well, tell us, what dance is there in Germany?
Jer, do you know a German dance? Well, I have a teacher. I have a teacher that said um, after the war, we don't sing our songs, we don't dance our dances. So and this brings me to something that is almost something that I feel like as this discourse develops and evolves, we also need to think about, which is how to be compassionate and empathic about these discourses of the brutish, for example. How to be compassionate towards that, because that person that said to Romi, great footwork, was experiencing something that is even proven in science, like I don't know, like how you call it, kinesthetic empathy, was experiencing this mirror neurons, kind of like, even if that person was not dancing, it was experiencing something. So but that person might not know how to describe it, how to talk about it, because actually you cannot talk about it unless you do it. But how to approach it. So how can we be compassionate or empathic towards these things that we see without being without putting ourselves into a hierarchical position?
Yes.
I feel you, and I totally hear you, and I think this is almost like you went straight boom to what I see as the root of some of the issues when it comes to language, when it comes to movement, when it comes to dance. And it's like, from one side, imagine some people kind of like put themselves in a different bubble of like, well, I know all these things and I know all these cultures and da 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 da. And then there is people that don't, and it's like, okay, from this bubble though, with all these people that don't know all these things and these languages and dances, somehow hierarchically from outside, it's here. So there are people that know a lot, or when it comes to languages or movements or things, and they're still looked down at in some shape or form from people in this bubble that they also know a lot of different things. But from this, I don't know, I feel like sometimes from down here we make an exercise of understanding, learning what happens in that bubble, trying to communicate, trying to connect, having empathy. And then if we do like a joke or something, that our bubble bursts out, where to mean we don't understand, and da. While this hegemonic up here bubble still kind of like looking down at this difference. Do you know what I mean? So yes, 100%, and I'm all for empathy when it comes to, I'm very close to what happened in Germany culturally, and I know a lot of German people that are, amazing in what they say and how they express that, and obviously others that don't, and they don't get embodied in that, and they don't think about that, and they keep going about their lives. So it's not about generalizing, etc., but I feel like this is something. So I love that you pointed that out, by the way, and it's hitting the nail in an interesting way, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Any
I was told that I work quite a bit in Germany, and some of the logic around for example, folk songs, German folk songs, were used by Goebbels in the most insidious manner to promote the Nazi Party. And so the use of German heritage and culture was so much prevalent during the Second World War, during the Goebbels years of Hitler, so much that the Germans have become embarrassed and almost, they don't want to be associated with that part of their history. But again, one has to strip away the Nazi legacy and actually own the culture and tradition. And I guess it takes a certain kind of braveness, a kind of growth, a kind of development for the German people to see that, I'm not going to be held responsible for something that happened a few years ago that I'm not living through now. And I'm not going to allow people to associate what I'm singing with a certain period. It takes a certain kind of braveness to do that. But I guess for the Germans love Irish culture, and for all sorts of reasons. They love the fact that Irish people love drinking. They love to drink their beer.
And that as well, drinking like spirits, to go back to the dancing, spirits
Yes.
comes
Yes.
from the fact that when you drink, spirits can take over. That's something
Yes.
that someone told me. Maybe I'm not retelling the tale very well, but as in like the part of you that is usually on, that you're like the typical aspect of your personality, when you drink, leaves space to spirits to take over.
Yes. And that's why when we are doing spiritual evocation in our tradition, there's alcohol involved. A traditional beer that is involved, and also we lose our inhibitions when we drink, but we drink quite a considerable bit in Germany, don't we, Juan?
Yes. With it, well, I cannot say we, because I still don't. I don't know. I don't feel like we, because also I don't drink so much. But yeah, there is a quite considerable amount of drinking here, and I think the Oktoberfest is the biggest drinking party there is in the world. So, and I just think it's part of the culture, and it's something that I wish could be embraced and celebrated more, because I don't see anything wrong with it. But I've seen also how it's kind of put down in the hierarchy of things, that, you know, in the something that we were talking about yesterday, in the history of manners. Then in some time in history, drinking became like, oh no, that there is too many people losing their inhibitions, so we have to control it. And then it belongs to the darker side of humanity. It doesn't belong to the enlightened side of humanity. Therefore, it's kind of criticized, or it makes people feel ashamed that this is part of their culture. But I believe that it needs to be more celebrated.
I agree with you. You know, there's the people in the called the Khoi, or the Khoi San. They are very short people, like my granny, and they're Bushmen. They're called the Bushmen. And I know this story where the Bushmen were laughing at these men, because the Bushmen, they just wear a loincloth just to cover their front, and no shirt, and they've got telepathy. You know, the two brothers will leave a house, and then they will travel, and the brother will say, "Oh, my brother just caught an animal." And they have got memory. They've got memories passed on to them by their ancestors. So when they are in the desert, they know where to look for water. And this particular incident is an incident involving a Khoi San who said, "Look at these people. They think they're civilized, dressed in their clothes, but they're so spiritually illiterate." And so we hold more value then to spirituality. So in that sense, I would say, when people are, I love German thinkers, you know, like Nietzsche, and even you know, the man who wrote The Power of Now, Tolle, Eckhart Tolle. I mean, he's a German mind. So obviously Germany has got certain kind of thinking and genius within in its essence and being, but not to be made ashamed of it, to allow it to be expressed without having people from England always beating you with a stick and saying, "You Nazi, Nazi." You got caught, but we didn't. Yeah, in fact, we are worse than you, but we've been caught. We have not been caught, and we're still shaping the conversation, shape-shifting the conversation. So, in a way, it's how probably, yeah. So in a way, it's just getting to that place as a people where we can be we can be comfortable with saying, you know, my people are Zulus, and just because my people did this doesn't make me responsible for it.
Absolutely. I feel like when you're talking about this now, you remind me of shame as like a important topic that I don't even know if calling it a topic. It is almost a tool. Like shame has been culturally used as a tool towards people.
Yes.
For them to be disempowered and not be able to celebrate their bodies, celebrate their language, celebrate their culture, whatever aspect of it that may be.
That is, you know, one of the things about sexuality, particularly in my culture, you know, we have dances that involve gyrating the pelvis forward, and we don't think anything of it. We just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just enjoy it. And we, for example, I have this, my great uncle is a shaman, and he gave me this powder. And he put this to his different plants, and he put this powder, it's red. And this powder is the best Viagra you can ever have. And it works for 6 months, even more, but it doesn't have the kind of side effects as Viagra, where you get a heart palpitations. And it is much healthier, but it is just there. It is nature giving you all the solutions for your body. And the reason why our organs don't work properly is because of tubes that have become blocked by diet, by all these. And when you take this powder, it opens up all these tubes.
Wow.
And we've lost a lot of this tradition because of cultural hierarchy and people looking down on culture and ancient wisdom, and allowing these traditions and wisdom to go away is causing a disconnection with ourselves and our reality and our sexuality. There is some rituals that are involved in Africa where men have sex with other men. And these rituals cannot be talked about within Western spaces, because Western spaces have got only one understanding of sexuality. And they remove certain knowledge and wisdom of what these rituals are. And unfortunately, you cannot have these conversations of these sacred rituals within cultural spaces of Western, because it just gets reduced to, it's an orgasm, it's this, it's about this, it's about this. Whereas it's actually much broader than just, you know.
Absolutely. I totally, like 100%. And there is so much that came to mind there when you're talking about this, as in like how language and dance and sexuality are connected when it comes to this looking down. And also like the sexual, as in like Latin American rhythms, African rhythms, they're sexual, and there is something like almost like a judgment of it.
Yeah.
You know, like like something to be, and it could be not even like sensual. Even the word sensual has some sort of like negative connotation.
Yeah. I think also it's the vocabulary of emotions and different understanding of various emotions. I think one of the things is this emotional intelligence and being able to have a whole dictionary of different expressions of emotions and different words to express emotions, and not just having monoglot emotions, and just having all these other types of emotions that can be articulated in different ways.
Yes. Even like when you're talking there of this emotional intelligence, but also like a intersectional intelligence, because now we're talking about language because you speak Irish, but you don't just speak Irish, you are also a dancer, and you're not just a dancer that speaks Irish, you are also a person that lived in Ireland, that went to a Protestant school, being Catholic, like all of these things. Like it feels like more and more we need to do things or connecting one thing at the time, one drop at a time, but it's water. It's not one drop. And yeah, like the drop is made of H2O, but it's an ocean. And in the I'm not sure if I look at you going like, Romi, what?
No. That is the beauty of the mind, in the sense that it connects all these different things, and it's allowing these connections to happen that gives us intelligence, and not just giving. You know, the difficulty that we have is that we have the uneducated, and I use this word loosely, spiritually handicapped, telling us who have the experience that I'm going to teach you about diversity, darling. I'm going to show you what cultural diversity is. And this is an English liberal white middle class woman from, from somewhere in England, who's coming to teach us about diversity. And the reality is, no, the fuck not. I'm actually going to teach you how to become human. I'm teaching the British people how to restore their humanity. And I'm saying this in terms of my experience, and knowing that if somebody keeps on refusing that, they have a problem. And yet they have a problem. I'm not drunk. But you are drunk as a skunk, but you're refusing that you're drunk, and you're refusing that you have a problem. And so I can't treat you, England. I can't help you because you are refusing that you don't need any help. But look at you, you are falling all over the place. You are Brexiting everywhere. You're making enemies everywhere, and you just need to just realize that you are part and parcel of everybody, and that you are not just this island on your own. I guess the point was that I know that emotionally and experientially I am advanced, and I do not need lessons by English or English cultural concepts to tell me how to be, because I know that I'm I know, baby.
Sorry, yeah, you have something.
No. I was like just coming back to this misinterpretations or narrowing down the sexuality to a single thing, abstracting sexuality to a single thing. I'm reading a book that is called Dancing in the Streets, A History of Collective Joy. And I'm reading it really slowly because I am like savoring the book, because it's like really, it's just really like everything that it says is so important. And there is a paragraph that says, there was one form of pleasure that deeply interested psychologists from Sigmund Freud on, and that was sexual pleasure. If the festivities and ecstatic rituals of primitives had routinely culminated in sexual acts, either public or private, psychology might have been more comfortable with them. The music, the excitement, the close-packed bodies could then all be understood as aphrodisiacs, allowing people to throw allowing people to throw their normal restraints. This is in fact how many Westerners chose to interpret the rituals they observed anyway, as indecent, wanton, and surely sexual in aim.
Surely sexual in aim.
In aim. So the rituals had they were interpreted as sexual in aim, like aiming for a sexual gratification, when in fact it's not like that. It's much more than just sexual gratification. Yeah.
Than that.
Yeah, I mean, it is, one of the things about Tantra. We know that other ancient traditions and not just the Ayurvedic traditions experience Tantra. And we know about what they call sex magic. We know that when people release an orgasm, that the orgasm has got with it energy. And we know that we can harness the energy that comes from the spot of our body, our sacrum. We know that we can harness that energy, and we can use that energy, and we can use it to raise our consciousness. And I don't know if you've become aware of this knowledge yet. There is this thing called sexual magic, and what it in essence involves. It involves getting your body to reach a certain level of climax, but not climaxing. And the more people, when you do it with the person who you're doing it, and you have agreed that this is what you're doing, the way it works is that it raises your consciousness and your sensitivity and awareness. It's not rocket science, but it just does. Because the time when we become the most alertest that we become is when I remember when I was young, I was about 15, and my friends were already engaged in sex. And I said to my friend, Lyndon, I said, Lyndon, man, I don't know, man. I was at it for a long, long time and nothing happened. And he says, concentrate. Concentrate. You've got to bring your whole self into the act. And it's that bringing your whole self into the act that allows the genius of the mind, and that allows the mind to gain the insight and the knowledge or the awakening that it needs. So in a way, what I always have to remember is that some cultures don't want that esoteric knowledge to be known. And some cultures believe that the knowledge of this is not helpful for the masses. It must be known by a certain select, a secret society. It is a very somatic practice, psychosomatic.
As well, sociosomatic practice.
Okay, tell me, expand on that, please, Juan. Can I play you a video?
Yes, you can.
This is a funeral.
It's a ceremony of bringing the spirit back into the family. So the person has been dead for a long time, and now we are now unveiling the grave stone. So the woman with the hat is the one dancing.
Mhm.
Now, you see, she does this movement with the hips, and it's not so accentuated. And I will show you another video where it's more accentuated. But you have to be watching it, you know?
It's like,
Okay, so that's dance, and I'm going to show you the same dance, but look at the hip movements now. Watch the hips. So, you know, some of the movement could be.
how comes there is just one person dancing? Is this part, like, this is the same event before there is
Yes.
the thing, and then later, and this is the one person dancing because she's the one calling back the spirit to the family or something?
So, no, what happens is that this dance is like shanos.
Okay.
So only one person dance. Everybody everybody who comes to the bringing of the dead spirit into the family, this is like how you bring the dead spirit into the family. Everybody dances. Everybody gets a chance to dance. Everybody. And everybody plays music for you. And that's your time. Everybody, from the grandchildren to the oldest, they all go there and people play for them. This is an opportunity where you see everybody's personality, their nature, because when people dance, you can't hide who you are.
Absolutely.
And so everybody dances. Everybody dances. And at the grave, when we went to dance at the grave, it was one particular person who danced. But the thing I was trying to allude to there in those videos, you can see the very sexual pelvis thrust. And you can't do that in Europe without people saying, you know, you know, but there's nothing.
Yeah,
It's like,
it's so weird because to me it's not sexual. To me it's just movement. It's just like even yeah, kids dancing in Africa when I was there. Some other people would like, oh my God, they're so young and they dance like that. I'm like, they're so young.
it's
No,
not. It's
you
not.
are the one that is seeing some moving their body. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We started speaking about language, people of accent, Irish language and inclusion, and how that works. And then the hierarchy of language went to the hierarchy of movement as well. And then we'll be talking about dance and linguistic prejudice and cultural, spiritual, a lot of things in this. And I think we can keep going. And I feel like we don't have to be always in the point. Like our conversation can move this way rather than this way. So this is a little bit what happened, and I loved it.
Mhm.
I like to give you space if you wanted to, like, have your own little moment of conclusion of what do you feel about this conversation, what you anything, or just nothing. I'm not sure.
Thank you everybody for this today. It gave me a lot of inspiration. I made some notes. For example, sexuality is more than an orgasm. I'm going to go reflecting more at this idea of looking down at cultures and how spirituality is handicapped. So thank you for that.
And it's a book about African ceremonies.
Wow.
And in this book, there is, oh, look at these men. They know how to use their eyes for theater and dance. So the
Wow.
makeup and adorning yourself and looking beautiful for the eyes to see is part of our tradition. And because we are forced to behave in certain ways because of cultural hegemony and imperialism, we lose our essence and our nature. So I think for me, I am very aware of how our culture is misunderstood and how our intention to be constantly accepted by the white people makes us lose our essence. And I think for me, I'm quite comfortable with being my culture. And I'm no longer concerned with what Europeans or what even some Africans think or what other people think. I'm probably more concerned with preserving the esoteric purpose of our culture and not be judgmental of my own culture in the way that it reduces its essence. So I'm committed to exploring new ways of exhibiting our nature, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. New ways of exhibiting our nature. I love that. And it's in like human nature as well.
Yeah.
Like bridging all these gaps that divide us in ways like let's move beyond.
Let's move beyond the concept of what it is to be an African or Irish or a man, or you know, I know like in our culture in Ireland, there's such grave homophobia.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading this book where this woman said sometimes men who are homophobic are afraid that they will be treated like the way they treat women. So men who are horrible to women become this homophobic because they are afraid that they'll be treated like the way they treat. So I'm aware that you have got some points you're going to say, Romi.
No, do I have any more? I guess like this is a perfect wrapping up of Identity Talks, because in our mind we were gonna start by language and then keep going, but we actually ended up doing the other process. And I like it, you know, like there's not beginning or end. This is not the end of anything. This is an exploration, and we're going more in a different kind of way. And I really love that it happened very like organically in this way. And now in the conversation of language, we're still connected to themes of sexuality and theme of hierarchy and exotization of the other, which we spoke before. And hopefully this is just a step towards having more and more conversations of this type, more conversation between people that are different, people of accent, people of different backgrounds, which actually, you know what, we don't always agree, or we don't always have the same idea. I feel like this is an exercise, is not being a token, the one foreign person in the conversation, but we actually can even converse between us, and hopefully a lot of people of all types of backgrounds would be interested in listening and see what we have to say, and maybe we'll do more. Yeah.
Yes, intact mind.
Goramila. Tura.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Muchas
Hasta,
gracias.
muchas gracias, amigo.
Grazie
Muchas
mille.
gracias a ti.
Grazie, grazie tanto.
Vielen Dank auch. Und merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.